So what actually makes a multiplayer, especially like a slightly more competitive first-person multiplayer game, fun? Is it the competition? Is it hanging out with your friends? Is it the social aspect? I've probably made a bunch of videos at this point trying to narrow down how I feel about video games, as weird as that may sound, but especially when it comes to multiplayer shooters, because it's a genre that historically I've always really enjoyed. In fact, once I discovered, the community behind the Call of Duties, the Combat Arms, some of the Quake, Team Fortress 2, and then into the console era of Call of Duty 4, Halo 3, games like that, I really stopped playing a lot of the single-player games because I so much would have preferred to jump into Halo 3 on Xbox Live or Call of Duty 4 or what have you and play with my friends. The social aspect of it combined with the competitive aspect made it just a lot of fun for me. It was a very important part, a very important time in my life. And even to this day, I will play new first-person shooters and very rarely feel like I have that same spark that I had. And for a while, I've debated and, like I said, I've made a lot of commentaries on this secondary channel here about, am I just getting too old? Are the games changing? Am I changing? Is the time of my life different? And I feel like at this point, it's kind of a culmination of things because yes, I'm in a different place in my life. I'm an adult. I prioritize work over play these days, which is funny because I started doing YouTube as making these gaming videos as this super casual thing, and the focus was just on playing games and sharing it with other people. And I've completely transformed that into I barely play games anymore and it's all about the work, which is weird, but hey, that's me. But I've also had issues just with how modern games are. Even if I am just playing it for myself, I struggle to really get into newer shooters. I really struggle with it. The newer Call of Duties, newer Halos to some degree, like I've really struggled with it. And I've always said that it wasn't nostalgia. Like to a degree, nostalgia always plays a role. And I debated for a while whether it was the nostalgia of the era that I was in, the nostalgia of my involvement with my friends and what I got out of that. But when it came to the actual gameplay mechanics, I always maintained that nostalgia was not the driving force because I still enjoy them now. It's not that I long to play those games again. It's that I can still log into Modern Warfare Remastered, Halo 3, COD 4 on PC, and still enjoy them and feel the same way as I have always felt mechanically about those games and find it superior, find it a better experience. And it's rare for a new game to come along and replace that. And I've still been trying to figure out exactly what that is. And I really think a lot of the focus of what games prioritize has kind of changed a little bit. And that's kind of weird to process and kind of weird to process in my own mind because there's some other factors beyond myself, changing, getting older, whatever, because there's also, BBK just posted a video recently after we played Halo 3 for a couple days and brought up a valid point that I hadn't considered in that Halo 3 was peak Xbox Live popularity and everything, and so the game was entirely built around this social magic. And some of that was just, it was so new and exciting to us that we couldn't stay away from it. But also the game implemented so much based around the quote-unquote community, based around the social and community-based features that new games don't really do. It had all of the party chat options. It had all of the, the custom matches, the private matches, the forge, the theater modes. It had all of these features all in one place, like basically perfected around this social aspect that once we moved on from that like few year time period of all games going all in on that, the social and the fun aspect kind of got pulled away and that magic was lost. The community involvement was lost. We didn't have the file forums, the Bungie favorites, things like that. And moving into other games, there's similar issues. And it also came up recently. There was a trending topic on Twitter specifically relating to Fortnite, but I participated in it based on not Fortnite, but the topic of skill-based matchmaking, SBMM, whether or not that should be quote-unquote removed from Fortnite. And again, I don't care about Fortnite, doesn't matter to me, but the idea of skill-based matchmaking has always baffled me, and I've seen it cause a lot of problems with my favorite games and make me not enjoy my favorite franchises. And as a pillar example, as a diehard Halo fan since day one pretty much, I have played through most of the Halo games countless times. I've enjoyed them to death. The multiplayer is some of my favorite multiplayer of all time. I sat there and could not really enjoy Halo 5 because it was so based on skill-based matchmaking, on sweaty try-hard matches, and this super hyper-competitive thing. And combine that with all of the cool, fun social sandbox features not being added until a year or two later, I dropped the game very quickly, and then unfortunately have never really gotten to experience that much of what the game had to offer. I've gone back a couple times and played customs with friends, but I've never really, you know, I didn't get that full experience because it wasn't there at launch. It was focused on this esports thing. Esports is somehow still a buzzword that every game is focusing on, and that comes in the form, in some ways, of skill-based matchmaking, and not even just that specifically. Like, there's a lot of debate and argument you can make about skill-based matchmaking that may swing an opinion one way or another based on how it's functionally supposed to work. However, the philosophy behind implementing it is kind of what's representative of the problem to me, and that's shown in situations where a game like, say, Call of Duty or a Fortnite or a Halo has the default public mode, which is typically casual / just general pub mode. That is supposed to be the social, the casual, the fun playlist. It's not supposed to be skill-based. That's what the competitive, the ranked, the pro level playlist is supposed to be. When in my, you know, peak era of enjoying games, you know, past the LOL, we only have server browser mode. For matchmaking, you had social casual modes, you had competitive modes, and then you had actual, you know, professional level scrims and LANs and tournaments. And people who actually participated in those would laugh at people who did pub stomp or, you know, play the MLG playlist or whatever and be like, LOL, get good, come play me at a real LAN, because match-made games were not considered competitive enough to really matter, even in the competitive playlist, which had ranked-based and skill-based matchmaking already, because real pros don't consider that all that important, because they're not. So the idea that you need skill-based matchmaking in order for real competition to happen just doesn't make sense to me, because there should be a separation. I like games like Battlefield 4 that I can jump into, like older Halos, like older Call of Duties, where I can jump in. Yeah, it's a competitive game by nature, but I don't want to sit here and sweat and try hard and be my best at all possible times. I'm not here to compete at this point in my life. I wasn't there even in my most competitive, actually competing in pro tournaments part of my life. I still had plenty of times when I just wanted to log in, sit back with some music and some friends, and have fun. I can only really get that in older games at this point. I get that in Apex Legends, which, funny enough, does have skill-based matchmaking as of this season or a couple seasons ago or what have you. But more often than not, I don't get that anymore. And it's really strange and confusing, because supposedly all of these changes were made by developers or publishers based on data that indicated this would increase audience or like player retention, you know, like a video's watch time, playtime, that players were leaving the game because they were getting stomped on too hard, which I would imagine if, yeah, you went back and played Halo 2 using the Xbox Connect, where you have like 15 people who play this game every day and that's it, or you play Quake 3, where at this point the people have been playing it for 20 years, you don't stand a chance. Yeah, you log in, you get crushed, and you move on. But with a modern game, having played through those eras without skill-based matchmaking, it was far, you know, those matches where you did get pub stomped or, you know, just destroyed by god tier players were somewhat far and few between, and that still even happens in skill-based matchmaking these days anyway. Like when I'm playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019, most of my matches are steamrolled either way, despite the skill-based matchmaking that is supposedly there. Most of the matches are steamrolled either way. Either I'm just crushing it and I don't understand why, or I feel like my teammates have never played this game before. And every once in a while, there'll be a game that is actually like super competitive and ends like, you know, on a 49-50 split, which honestly isn't that entertaining. Like for a casual arcade shooter, I'm in to have fun, kill people, use all of the mechanics in the game built around getting high kill streaks and high kill counts, not to have a perfectly even 1.0 KD, to feel perfectly adequately challenged by my exact match, and to have a boring game as a result. It's not what I play these games for. I don't believe that that's what a lot of people play these games for. And for games to be reaching such a wide critical mass compared to what they used to be able to reach, I feel like it is kind of bizarre for that to be considered something that retains an audience more. I feel like there should be more of an audience for casual players, especially when you have something like Fortnite, where you have people jumping in on mobile. Those mobile people aren't playing to be hyper competitive Why would you think that? I don't know. It just sits really weird in my head, and I'm really just unhappy with the state of first-person shooters and like multiplayer shooters at this point. And it's really frustrating because it's a genre that overall I love so much. I enjoyed older Call of Duties. I enjoy Apex Legends to death. It's one of the few games that still recreates that magic spark for me, and I think that's just down to how freaking great of a development house Respawn is. Apex does it for me. Older Halos do it for me. I'm so stoked to see more MCC releases coming to PC. I really wish Halo 3 would get here today. Modern Warfare 2019 is not doing it for me. I was super stoked for it, and then the new maps, the way the maps are built to flow and things like that, just haven't been doing it for me. Meanwhile, playing like Rush or Shipment, I'm having my best matches ever because I still am like, the muscle memory still holds up for the matches, and I feel like I can more easily, even though I feel like the maps are objectively worse in the new mechanics set and with the new spawns and all of that, I still feel like I can see through the chaos and actually have a decent pub stomping match in Shipment and Rust compared to the new maps. And the new maps just aren't fun. And it's really bumming me out. Like, I want these experiences, but it's getting harder and harder to go back to these older games because of connection issues. Games get servers shut down so much earlier than they used to. Like, they're like Battlefield Hardline, their servers are already shut down. Meanwhile, I can go play certain shooters from 20 years ago and it's fine. And combine that with, you know, a lot of games don't get security updates after a certain point, and there's plenty of hackers like in older Call of Duties. And then a lot of older games that used to stay popular for years and years in the past few years have actually died out. And I would blame, not that it's a bad thing overall, but I would blame the influx of these free-to-play battle royale style first-person shooters like Fortnite. That's not a first-person, but Fortnite, Apex, you know, games like that that are free-to-play and luring people in with a close enough for a lot of people gaming experience that then they don't play the older games anymore because they were only really playing the older games so that they got, you know, a mechanic set they enjoyed and didn't have to buy anything new. Now they also don't have to buy anything new. And again, that's a good thing for the gaming scene overall, probably. But for someone who wants to experience that old gameplay style, it is much more difficult to be able to go back to it now. And I don't really know what to do with this. I realize that I'm the old man yelling at the clouds of video games, and that's frustrating. But I feel like there's a solution to be had, and I don't know what it is. I can't just play Halo 1 and Halo 3 forever, or Call of Duty 4 forever, as much as I would love to. And I really, personally, I think the compromise is in the form of games like what Halo Online was going to be, and Call of Duty Mobile. If I could get Call of Duty Mobile, but an actual, you know, not the emulator, because that doesn't play, it doesn't translate to mouse and keyboard and controller and stuff quite right, but the Call of Duty Mobile kind of game where it has the things that hark back to the original Call of Duties, but you know, you have a mix of the maps, you have a mix of the guns, and you get new content releases for it based on that set. But it's kind of just a in place, one free to play but microtransaction supported long-term update game where it continues to get content and stuff for years, but isn't meant to be the AAA replacement. The same thing with what Halo Online was going to be before all the El Dorito stuff, just the idea of having like a mix of classic Halo feel with all of these customizations and unlocks and new content to it, you know, to get. I want Halo Online to release now. That would be great, because honestly, it is kind of maddening to play an older game for hours upon hours upon hours and there be no modern progression because you've already unlocked it all, or because there's no new content for it. So to me, that would be the ideal scenario. Like, I got Call of Duty Online and Halo Online on PC and or console and got to have that experience again. But because of where the markets are, it's possible that, you know, the main gaming market is not with me in that regard. And so the only places that is sustainable is on somewhere like mobile. I don't know. Interested to hear your thoughts. Just needed to get this off my chest. I'm very congested at the moment, if you can't tell. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe for more random stuff here on Vox Bites. I'll see you next time.
I'm saying, really. Also, there's tons of stuff on my body for you guys to have.
Yeah, we looted it.
Hell yeah.
Oh, I hear him. Oh, that's you. You were on the other side last time I looked.
Got him. Alright, well, we can just chill here until these fucking idiots show themselves.
Idiot.
I still can't believe a man with a white box was in the final circle.
I can't believe I don't have any grenades. But yeah, that's
He probably died, and they probably rezzed him.
Oh, because they did just res recently.
That's probably why.
Oh.
Oh my god. They're sneaking up on you boys. Surprise!
Fuck out of here, boy! Got him.
Yeah, that's a pretty good game, dude. Fuck.
Yep.
You are the Apex champions.
I'll take it, boys.
Apex champions.
Jesus Christ.
Yep.